Hello, Gator Nation. How are you tonight? I say dilly dilly to you with a big cheers for my Stella Artois glass tonight. I'm featuring a Gainesville beer tonight from Swamp Head Brewery. They're not paying me. I just like to drink it. No, I'm not Buddy Martin, so don't change that dial because I've got a dynamite show. Buddy's on assignment. What are we going to talk about? Oh, I know. Florida, Georgia, as we inch closer and closer to the highly anticipated showdown against the rival evil Georgia Bulldogs this Saturday. The stakes and the energy are high. And we've got David Whitley, Kyle Curtis, Lauren Meadows, and the cast of thousands. And a guy named Graham Hall is going to join us as well. So stay tuned. If you're new to the show, please click the subscribe button down on the right-hand side or underneath the chat room or whatever it may be, because it is live tonight. And I will say welcome to the Buddy Martin Show.
It's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
And that's right. The sign does say dilly dilly as we welcome in David Whitley, Kyle Curtis, Buddy Martin's going to check in for a little while and hang out with us. Gentlemen, welcome to the broadcast. David, I'll start with you. How are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you. I'm surprised to see Buddy pop up. Hello, Buddy.
David, how you doing? Good to see you and Kyle and Brendan. I'm only going to be here for just a quickie, sort of get my nightly infusion of Brendan Martin and this show and you guys, and I'm out. So I'm doing well. Kyle, how you doing?
A night with all these gentlemen is always a great night, so I'm happy to be here.
Well, welcome to the quickie, gentlemen. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Hey, Buddy, I know we only have you for a little while, but I really wanted to talk about this dynamic interview with this guy named Stephen or Spurrier? Question mark.
Heard that guy. Yeah, I started thinking about this. David, you would know this, just about the fact that guys like this don't come along very often.
Boom, head ball coach. Sorry.
And
show the T-shirt.
Yeah. And oh yeah, nice. And what he did is David and Kyle and Brendan is even more remarkable as the years go by, dominating Georgia like he did. So I said, Steve, why don't you sit down and talk to me and tell me how you did this? How did it happen? What was it about? So we have a really interesting 20-minute interview tomorrow night with Coach Spurrier about this, where he talks about everything from the game where he hung 50 on them in Georgia and Athens to, some great moments. But one of the things he did say was they didn't try to do anything different. They did the same plays, did the same thing, and took the game in the same approach as he did before. And it was so successful. And I said, when they called you the evil genius, which they do at Georgia, you take that as an insult or a compliment? Absolutely as a compliment, he said. Then gave me a Sun Tzu quote. Anyway, it's interesting. Steve was a fascinating character, as we all know. I just thought it was time to ask the guy how he did it.
Well, that's tomorrow night, right, buddy? You're teasing us, and you're teasing us on the quickie tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's going to be exciting, Mr. Whitley. You're always my favorite question every time we go to the press conference on Monday. What's your take about this week? You've been around for a hot second, as they say. What's your feeling around Gainesville or the Ville or Hogtown or whatever we want to call it this week? The vibe is Gators got a chance.
Got a chance, much more so than the last couple of years where you just went up there and hoped to maintain a shred of dignity in Jacksonville. And I'm not sure they exactly did. But now, the way Georgia's been playing, which is by Georgia standards, hot and cold, and UF seems to be trending up a bit, having won that big emotional game at South Carolina. I mean, just on the proverbial paper, beating South Carolina doesn't seem that big, but we all know it had much more import than that, just from a momentum standpoint for the team. And Graham Mertz looking more and more every day like Otto Graham. If anybody
nice.
Yeah, nice. Trying to think of another Graham QB. If you can think of anybody, I'm hard pressed.
Graham crackers? I don't know.
Yeah.
Graham
Billy
Hall.
Graham. Okay. How about that? Graham must be more like the Billy Graham.
Billy Graham, I like that. Yeah. That's good.
Mm-hmm. Right, so, I like Billy Graham.
Yeah, and the things that people were weeping and gnashing their teeth over, a few weeks ago about how the offense is so mundane and doesn't throw it downfield. Well, they were winging it away.
That was for Kyle. It was Kyle saying all that. We didn't say that. Kyle said it.
Yeah. So, of course, all that said, you're playing, a juggernaut in Georgia, and the dog should certainly be favored. But as you said, there's a bit more optimism and faint hope, not so faint, the proverbial puncher's chance they feel they got this year.
Yes, we've heard that knocked around a little bit. Puncher's chance. Kyle, what's the vibe on campus, man? Everyone feeling it? The fraternity house, those guys getting rocking and rolling. I see you got your shirt on. Old ball coach. What's going on up in the Ville?
So I think just my fraternity alone, we got 3 buses going to Jacksonville. Everyone's jacked up. And kind of how Mr. Whitley was saying, how that South Carolina game ended. I was sitting there in the box with Coach Lauren Meadows, and I was like, there's going to be 2 different perceptions if we win this game. That bye week gets dragged out a little bit faster, but if we lose this game, it's going to be a long week for that football program. And we came out on the right end, and now going into it, I think it's a good test to see where we're at and, where we need to go, because, the people are talking about, Bauer's not playing, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, Georgia still got one of the best rosters in the country, back-to-back national championships. I think they've won 24 straight. So it's going to be a good test against probably the premier program in college football right now.
Well, that is very sure. Buddy, I know you've got a big assignment tonight. I don't want to keep you in from your top double secret, triple secret deal, but we want to bid you adieu. Would you have any parting words for your audience here as you hand over
butter pecan ice cream? That's my parting words. That's where I'm going next.
Can't do better than that.
Yeah,
I guess you can.
Yeah.
Is there a brand associated with that?
Well, Briars, but butter pecan ice cream. That's my date tonight. Butter pecan ice cream. So I got to go. All right. See my date. And hey guys, great talking to you. I'll be picking out of the show to get educated here about this. Don't forget tomorrow night, Steve Spurrier, the Bulldog Slayer, tells you how he did it right here on the Buddy Martin Show.
Thank you, Mr. Bourgeois. Have an excellent evening with your ice cream. We say goodbye, and then we say hello to Mr. Lauren Meadows. Coach Meadows, welcome to the broadcast. How are you, sir?
How you guys doing?
Just had a quickie with Buddy. It was good.
The straight face is the best, Mr. Whitley.
Right.
He's Columbo, man. It's the best.
Yeah, you get a good workout in, Mr. Whitley, yesterday.
I should say, Lauren and I ran into each other at the gym, and I think he was doing his. I think on Mondays he does his sets of. Is it bench press pecs? You do like 5 sets of 400-pound reps.
Yes, sir.
And
Yeah.
And he was buff.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I mean,
throw another 25 on there, Whit.
It was impressive. I mean, I'm all these little co-eds coming around checking him out. And said, the guy still got it. You know, he said, don't get too close to my pecs. You might cut yourself. I said, okay, I'm backing off, man.
That's it. You guys are posing down on the quickie tonight. That's what I want to know. That's what I'm. Tuesday night's going to be called the quickie for the rest of the time. Where do you guys go to? The Gainesville Health and Fitness? Like, where's your? I don't want to give away. I mean, the stars will be lining up for you guys. I don't want to give away your workout spot.
Yeah,
we're GHF people, aren't we?
GF.
Yes.
I think I still owe them money.
Them among other people, I would suspect.
Yeah, don't they arrest? I think they arrest people when they do that.
Yeah, well, they get ready to build on, so they might come to collect. They get ready to open up a big old more add-on to the facility, so you might have to come with it. You know,
that's okay. That's okay. I fly under the radar. No one knows really where I am. Well, all right, gentlemen. So we'll bring it back. We'll bring it back to the middle. Obviously, huge game this weekend. Huge for probably we could name 20 different reasons why. We already sort of Lauren talked about. So you're saying they got a chance? Of course, we've had that conversation for what now? 8-9 days or whatever it may be. But Lauren, with all things said, and we do call you coach for a lot of different reasons. You're an X's and O's guy. What do you think we should expect? And I want to just jump in offensively. What do you think we should expect Florida to sort of come out and what any wrinkles or anything you've heard of or whatever against this pretty good Bulldog defense?
Like I said, I think they're going to stick to what they've been doing all year to the chagrin of most fans. I think they're going to force Georgia to defend them horizontally. I think we're going to see a lot of the quick screen game off of the play action, a lot of things that kind of what I call post-snap tempo with Eugene Wilson, and then, even getting Ricky Pearsall involved. And then, they'll kind of dink and dunk and take their shots, and I'm sure try to see if they can establish the run game. But I think if they begin the game trying to go right at the Georgia defense, cause a lot of they can, find a way to what I call long hand on offense and kind of ease their way into the game and see what kind of looks they're getting. And if the defense is playing well, kind of keep things kind of status quo. I think if you look back to the Auburn game, Auburn had some success with that, even though the quarterback, they were able to hurt them a little bit with the quarterback run, which Florida doesn't do a ton of, but they were also able to force Georgia to kind of cover all 53 and a third, which is what you got to do. Because, like I've said that, I mean, there are 2 losses. I've talked about it. You can't play, you couldn't play Utah in a phone booth. You couldn't play Kentucky in a phone booth. And you can't play Georgia in a phone booth. You got to play them in a parking lot. And I think that's what they'll kind of, hang with that. I think they've really started to get kind of, with Ricky Pearsall and Eugene Wilson, and then Arla's kind of working the middle. It's kind of like a yin and yang. Wilson's kind of the in-between guy, the screen game, the quick tempo. And then you look up and Ricky's on the back end, when they flood one side and things like that at the 15-yard area, which are great throws, by the way. So I think that's what they'll do is look for a lot on the perimeter early for sure,
Well, my question to Kyle and the rest of everyone here, and by the way, Joseph Ross, it's not the quacky, it's the quickie, dude. Quickie.
That's right.
Look it up and don't respond.
Please don't respond.
Please don't. This is not. Well, I'm on, baby. It's the R show now, but it's not the triple X. Okay, so just calm down. Double X. Well, yeah. Okay. I'm not that big. Whoa. Now, I think it's interesting with development, Kyle, of opening up the tight end position more and more for Florida, which gives a lot more air yard potential for Graham Mertz and company, because obviously you've got another option. Do you think that is helpful to, obviously, because we saw a lot more, what was it? They call them air yards against South Carolina. A lot of, I think, potential air yards, because now, you've got to worry a little bit more about that wrinkle. Do you agree with that, Kyle, or what's your take there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the emergence of Arliss Boardingham, I think Napier touched on the way that those young tight ends have really made an impact, on the offense on Monday about, the way that they're starting to understand the offense more. They're getting more comfortable, and you're starting to see all of these athletic plays and stuff like that we've been hearing. That we've really been wanting to see from the tight end position ever since, Kyle Pitts left back in 2020. On top of, Arliss Boardingham, Hayden Hanson's also come in and done a phenomenal job, and it's kind of just been, it seems like whenever a ball needs to be caught and it's, the third and Hanson, I don't know, but it seems to be whenever he's always in the right spot at the right time for Mertz. But the emergence of those two guys, it kind of what bouncing off what Lauren was saying, it opens up the horizontal game a little bit more, and it makes them just, have to cover the whole field. And, when all those guys are clicking, it just makes it easier on, the skill players on the outside and even in the running game.
Oh, we lost Mr. Meadows. He'll probably be back and join us. That's okay. David, Mr. Whitley, you're my emo guy, right? You're my locker room. You're my vibe guy, like that's you're because you and I, we're like the same guy. You're
Monaco.
Yeah, from top to bottom. You're probably more svelte than me. With your workouts, and we'll bring back Lauren Meadows. What do you think about the emergence of the same sort of question? Do you think that that helps Ricky out, gets guys open a little bit more? It seems to sell the play action a little bit better. It seems to give Graham Mertz a lot more options. I almost called them graham crackers, but Buddy got that in my head.
Graham cracker.
Well, we could use graham.
Billy had said Billy Napier. For those of you who don't know who Billy, we still be thinking Billy Graham, but we're talking Billy Napier now.
Right? Yeah, Mr. Napier.
He said that the offense has evolved somewhat as the players have evolved in talent, because at the start of the year you didn't know what you had, and you didn't really have much at first with Wilson and Hanson and Boardingham. They were developed, but you've seen them grow before our eyes, and it's given them these options, and give them more ways to open up that offense. But I hate to go old school on you, but I think it's all going to come down to the old offensive line, the proverbial trenches,
the game of inches.
That's Georgia's just been a just a Death Star in the trenches, on the defensive line the last few years. Still good, still very good. Florida, played, so he's still up and down. You've seen Waite's back is nice. His from the. Everybody thought he might be out till January when he first suffered that Achilles, but Achilles, it's like I don't know what's come over him, but everybody's I don't know if you just wave magic wand over him nowadays, but people are getting healthier a lot faster than they used to with those Achilles injuries.
I think it started with the Cam Akers injury. He came back in one season, and ever since then it seems like it's a one season injury.
Yeah, but the fact I thought we wouldn't see him next year, but he's there, and that helps, gives him some depth. Nobody's going to dominate Georgia's defensive line, but if the offensive line can let's just say, if they just don't suck, just and just play clean, just not too many false starts, not too many holdings. If they just keep that to a minimum, then okay, then the rest of it can go. But you always hold your breath going up against that Georgia defensive line.
Well, I agree. Off the line of scrimmage has been the struggle all year. The offensive line obviously has been the issue all year. That's what you fear. Listen, I'm kind of keeping an eye toward this lovely chat room here, and I have a lot of fans clearly with Chris Sorley and and David Baldoff. And Baldoff, shut up, dude. I've known you too long for you to talk smack. And Sorley, get a grip, dude. You don't like it, do your own show. Go somewhere else. I don't really care. Here's the deal. I'm the bad guy because I'm saying that Florida's not going to win this game. I'm not the one. I'm sorry, your resident sunshine pumper's not here. Buddy's not here. You can probably see him tomorrow night. I think the Gators are going to play well. I hope they play well. Hell, I hope they win because that's the Gator fan of me. But I don't know. I mean, if I'm sitting on a show like this, if I'm in Vegas, I don't gamble on it, right? So I probably take Georgia in the point. What is it, 14? I think the spread is now, or whatever it may be. But it's all, whatever it may be. I hope Florida has a really good showing. And like you opened the top of the show, David, just don't go up and suck, right? Because that's really what it's all about. Kyle, I want to give you sort of little comment here. I see Mr. Graham Hall is in the orange and blue room, and we'll bring him in. Kyle, what do you feel like the atmosphere is going to be there? Because you've got 14 busloads of your fraternity brothers and friends headed up there. I've been to, I don't know, probably 10 of these things. It always seems to be far more Florida leaning in the stands because Jax is probably, if not one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Florida Gator area in our region here. What do you expect up there, Kyle? And this is not your first Florida Georgia, is it?
No. I've been twice. I think it's gonna be great. I mean, a massive group of students always go. We party out there in like the lots or whatever, tailgating, stuff like that. And God, I mean, I know a lot of people are thinking this could be also potentially one of the last years that it could be at Jacksonville, with Jacksonville going under that stadium renovation and stuff like that. So I think a lot of people will be there. Usually in the past few years, I know it's been pretty sold out, and I think it's going to be a good mix of Florida, Georgia. Obviously, Georgia has the last time Georgia lost a regular season game was to Florida that 2020 season, and I think everyone is super excited for Florida recruiting. Also, this is going to be the first time that Florida is going to be able to bring recruits to Jacksonville. And since Florida's technically the home team, they get to bring their recruits.
But you can't talk to them.
Can't talk to him.
You can't touch him. Can't even look at him.
No.
Yeah, I heard Napier talking about how they got to follow the rules and stuff like that. So, but it'll be cool. I think it'll be a great environment, and it's I think it's one that recruits definitely need to see if you're choosing between the two schools.
Well, Kyle, thank you very much. We look forward to reporting.
Yes,
Kyle Curtis from Gator Bait Media.
No drinking on that bus.
No, they don't drink. Kyle doesn't drink. Never drinks.
I'm a good guy.
And he's a lot of good guys drink, Kyle. Just so you know. Hey, and by the way, be safe, okay? Kyle Curtis, check him out on GatorBaitMedia.com. Does a great job. Kyle, thank you for everything that you do, and good night to you, sir. As we say goodbye to one, we say hello to another. And I got to get my hair ready for this guy because I feel like I grow it out, Hall. I feel like you and I feel like we would be brothers.
We got lots to love, man. Absolutely.
Before Graham gets started, I mean, I think the thing people have to understand, if you come, doesn't really, that's not what any of us get paid to do, and that's not the job. I mean, we are observers. I mean, I think if you ask the four guys on here right now, none of our, I mean, we may say Florida's going to play well, but you have to look at it as just the fact that the superior team is the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, we're going to talk about all the other things and the storylines and what's going on, but I mean, it is what it is, guys. And for if you really want somebody to come on and say Florida's going to win, well, we can say that, but as fans of the game, as guys that, what's that?
But you bring on Fran.
Yeah, you get Fran's beer.
And you just as guys that watch a ton of football, not just Florida, but a lot of games every weekend, you got to be real with yourself as a fan, number one, but then professionally what these guys do, I mean, it's just not going to be that way. And you know, I don't know how with a straight face you can say that. You know, I mean, you know, talk about Georgia's struggles. There is no struggles when you've won. You haven't lost a game in 2 years. That's football. Every team struggles. There is no struggles when you've got dubs and you're just hanging dubs. Talks about Georgia's struggles. It's tough to win in this league. It's tough to win, but they've been winning. And from a purely football standpoint, you got to give Georgia credit. I mean, that's it, you know.
Graham Hall, welcome to the program. I do love your hair. I did shave my beard today. I was like, damn, I should have waited because I think I definitely could rival the hair deal. Graham, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. I understand you shaving the beard. You got a better jawline than me, so you might as well rock it. Same with you, David, Lauren, as well.
That's
you know, I'm hiding.
Strong jawline.
I don't
Strong.
have as good looks as you guys, so.
Oh, stop. You're a very good looking man. Hey, by the way, the show is called The Quickie, according to Buddy Martin, who was on earlier. It's a long story. Graham, you know, we always talk to you about recruiting, but, you know, this year we've talked to you more about, you know, just in general X's and O's and whatever. Obviously, we're talking Florida, Georgia. I do want to talk to you about recruiting a little bit. Hey, I heard there's this 5-star that signed for Florida, might be playing defensive line. Talk to me about the recent pickup.
Well, you got to hold LJ in the class, which I think I've said this before. I think it's much easier to maintain your commitments down the stretch with NIL, with especially the way that this coaching staff is recruited, right? They've done a great job at holding on to commits that they want to hold on to. So I think you have to give them a lot of credit there. But, you know, LJ McCrae is a massive pickup for Florida. I had a chance to go down to Daytona Beach a couple times during the spring and see who he was like as a person when he was practicing, what his work ethic was like. And for those who have followed, Florida really is interested in getting a field level view, right? Where they actually want to see how you work in practice, not just, 8-10 second clip of how you look in a game, but they want to see your work ethic, your motor, and how encouraged you are to keep working. And let me say this about LJ. One of the most humble, hardworking kids that I have seen on the recruiting trail. Just, he is soft-spoken, and that's not a bad thing. Let me say that. He is eager to learn. He takes coaching well. And when I was out there both times, they ended practice, a 2.5-hour practice, whatever it was, and he stayed out there for another hour with his coaching staff to keep working. And it came to a point where it started getting dark, and they said, we have to end, man. You got to be ready for tomorrow. And he still wanted to keep working. They have to tell him to stop working. He has a really good motor, and he's going up against kids nonstop in practice who are, overmatched for him. So he is often dominating in practice, and he's looking to get additional coaching outside of that. I think that is one of the most encouraging signs of a player of his caliber. And if you often think that 5-stars are these guys who are just convinced that they're going to be studs no matter where they go. And that's not the vibe I get from LJ McCrae. So of everything about him, how motivated he is to work, that is probably the most appealing feature about him. And then you get into the fact that he's 6'6" and has this great bend and is great with his hands and is only getting stronger and may still be growing depending on who you talk to. Those are the things that I think validate him being a 5-star. His work ethic, how he compares to the next level. I'm interested to see what position he plays to the next level, because I think he could play a variety of roles depending on where you line him up. I think it's a massive get. And this is not a kid who really grew up a Florida fan, right? You often hear about kids who are big Florida fans growing up. That's not the case. He was open-minded to Florida State, Florida, Miami, even Georgia. Whatever you want to call it. This is a big recruiting win for Florida. He has faith in the system at Florida. And in my mind, when you get a player of this caliber to buy in who has no prior attachments, that's huge in my mind. So I think it's a huge win. It's back-to-back years that Florida has made the bye week a win for them without a competition. And I think, like I said, it's easier to hang on to these kids moving forward. He's going to be at the Georgia game on Saturday, from what I've heard. Even if he can't, hang out with the staff, this is a kid who has faith in what Florida is doing and wants to keep getting a view of it. He's been on campus for the last 5 years, double-digit visits since he was 13. So it's a huge win. It's a kid that every program really wanted in the Southeast, and to be able to get him in, it also could pay dividends down the line, whether it's getting someone like Jordan Seaton, who sees another 5-star buy-in, or you maybe have a chance at his teammate, even though Miami is right there as well for Xavier Mincy, who Florida believes can be a lockdown corner in the SEC. Some programs are recruiting him at safety, and I think that what he wants to play, depending on what the coaching staff wants him to play, is going to absolutely be a factor in his decision. But by adding LJ, you continue to boost yourself up for these other 5-stars who are in the mix, and it's a massive win in my mind.
Yeah, and just to follow up with that, there, and you alluded to it. It does seemingly open doors. There are other targets now that are part of the discussion that are big gets. Do you have sort of a short list there?
Yeah, Xavier Mincy, Jordan Seaton. I mean, Florida has filled out 90% of their class, right? So they have a chance to be picky. They have a little bit of leverage, right? They can be selective and use those final 5, 4, whatever spots it is, to pick who they want to take in this class. And if it's, Xavier Mincy, you obviously need a top-notch corner. But Jordan Seaton, I think, is a really, really big one, because not only, you think that how could a defensive lineman help getting an offensive lineman? Those guys are going to make each other better for years if they go to the same place. They're going to be going against each other for 10 months out of the year when they're not doing good on good. They're going to be making each other better. They're going to be seeing what each other did so they can know what to watch for. And that's a massive boost in my mind. And also when it comes to Florida's offensive line, not to rip anyone on the current roster, because I'm very, very impressed with a lot of Florida linemen, especially the progression. I think the development process of Florida has been really, really good under Napier, especially on the offensive line. I mean, you look at who they've added and how those guys have progressed, been able to play early. I'm really impressed, but you need a top-notch tackle, right? You absolutely need one. And I don't know if Florida has identified one in this class or last year. So being able to go out and get one, if they can land Jordan Seaton, that would be massive in my mind. And it's not just LJ recruiting him. I mean, you have Miles Graham in his ear. You have DJ Lagway, who has been absolutely, go back to last year. Last year, you get, Jaden Rashada. He comes in, he flips from Miami, but he really didn't have a chance to recruit for any class, right? Because any work that he had done, it kind of was either too late or it fell apart when he was at Miami. So you have a guy who has been locked in the entire time and has been pushing a guy like JS to join him. And I think that is a huge tool for this class. And if they end up getting him, it's going to be a cumulative effort from Lagway, from LJ McCrae, from this coaching staff. There's a lot of positive elements where you're not really, it doesn't really harp on or hinge on one person to be responsible for getting him in. So that is probably the biggest, most reassuring thing in my mind when it comes to how they've constructed this class. There's a lot of solidarity and really already a bond on offense and defense, because they've had leaders in DJ, Miles Graham, who've been, they're not shy to recruit for Florida. And if that helps you get guys, that's going to keep everyone together. And it's absolutely something that could pay dividends, getting LJ in here to further boost a really, really promising defensive class. And now I think it could help their offensive line recruiting.
Don't you guys think it's because Georgia was on that short list for LJ? I don't know. I think all these things sort of play in a little bit. I mean, David, it's like, you're going to have a changing of the guard eventually. I mean, Georgia's dominated, now for the last, 2 years, obviously undefeated. Do you think that plays in at all, especially with the Brock situation? You kind of look for that perfect storm here a little bit, right?
Yeah. Graham, I ask Chris about one thing. Are they limited in the number of scholarships? Is it a self-imposed limit, or is there a hard cap? Because how many more scholarships will they give in this recruiting cycle?
I think if you're a class right now, you kind of target that soft cap of 25, right? Yeah. Because you're going to have to use some spots for the transfer portal, and you're going to have to account for attrition afterwards. And you never want to be held to a limit in the portal, because you never know how, I think, talent late in that December to last week of January window is going to be, right? Every coach will tell you that the transfer portal, the talent drops off after February 2nd or 3rd, whatever that signing day period is, and you really have to kind of go out and be selective. So, excuse me, after the early signing day period, there's going to be a little bit of a talent drop off. So you really want to kind of be more picky after mid-December. So I think Florida will be 26 by the end of this class, and that means that they have 4 spots left, and you have a chance to really go out there and add to it and boost this class. But you don't really want to take over that, because then you really have to make some tough decisions in the portal where you could have some unexpected attrition, and you have to go out there and maybe find some guys who can play right away rather than going out and finding these top-notch freshmen who maybe they're not as available afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Lauren, what's your take there?
Yeah, I mean, it just speaks to the work that just as a whole, the organization has been doing on the recruiting trail. I mean, I think that, like Graham said, LJ McCrae was a big get. It kind of sends shockwaves around the recruiting scene to let, kind of, man, this is, kids look and they're like, okay, he's going there. I'm going to, I'm going to look at him a little bit harder and things like that. And I think one of the things that LJ McCrae and a lot of other kids have talked about is the fact that they really believe in what Florida is building. Because if you look at it at face value right now, it's a team that's probably going to win anywhere between 7 to 8 games. But when they talk about what is coming down the pike, what is going to be, then that's something that kids want to be a part of. And I think that, like he said, if they can, they got McCrae, I think Seton would be a huge get. It continues the pipeline that they're kind of starting to build with IMG and things like that, where Florida never had a footprint, I think, for almost 10, 15 years. I mean, nothing even close. So when you get into that vein and then it continues, now you talk about, like you said, Brendan, tipping the scales and starting to kind of bring the rest of the SEC, particularly Georgia, back to you. And, I think that's, one of the things that McCrae, I mean, just, and really, and I follow Graham and those guys on the site, I mean, even going into the commitment date, it was more looking like what I understand, like a Florida State get and things like that. So it was almost like a surprise get in a lot of ways, even though
like
there was a connection to the program, with his dad being around for so many years and things like that. But, I think that was kind of an upset, I would say, almost in the commitment, which makes it even sweeter. So,
Graham, I go back to you here. We were having our show on Friday with Urban Meyer. We were talking about Brock Bowers being out, and we call him Coach, but Coach was alluding to the fact that these are the kind of things that really disrupt a team. He wasn't saying that would be, the tipping point for Florida to win the game or not. But he says these are the kinds of things that make a huge difference. What's your take on Brock Bowers? Sort of not being as he does so much for that offense, right? Urban had a really sort of interesting talk about just from a coaching standpoint. And he alluded to like a Percy Harvin and what one person means to an entire team.
Yeah, I think that the confidence that Brock Bowers gives the offense, having a surefire target, that's an intangible that I think is maybe underrated right now, because, I mean, they know that guy is going to go out there and get 5-6 receptions a game, be targeted 10 times maybe, and you can try and do your best with defending him, and he's still going to make plays, right? What I come back to, and I think I'm a little bit unsure of this, so I got to be clear here that I can't say it's going to go one way or the other, but Kirby Smart does not seem to lack for faith that they're going to be able to step up in Brock Bowers' absence. And the reason I kind of believe with what he's saying, unfortunately, because, I work for 247 Sports, we follow recruiting and how well Georgia has recruited, not just the tight end position, but across the board, whether it's another wide receiver, a guy in the slot, that they're going to have, to quote him, contingency plans for Brock Bowers being out. That's absolutely a factor here, where I think that they're going to be able to have weapons without him. So not to minimize his absence, because I do think that it will be noticeable, but unfortunately, I do think that they've recruited so well that his absence is not going to hurt them as much as it would, hurt a team like Florida when Kyle Pitts 3 years ago gets up, and exits that game. He gets knocked out, misses the last 2.5 quarters, and Florida looks a little bit more, they kind of look shell-shocked, right? As if they didn't have a go-to target or someone else would have to make a play. And that hesitance, that second guessing, I think kind of impacts your team a good bit. I don't think Georgia's going to be impacted like that, but this is a pass first team. And that is something I think we have not seen too much from Georgia the last 3 years. This is kind of the first year I can remember where they have a quarterback coming out who is as efficient as Graham Mertz and has a true number one target. He has 5-star receivers around him. They're going to have someone step up. And if Florida can find a way to limit how good Carson Beck can be, whether it's pressuring him, finding a way to absolutely identify what they do on offense and take away his go-to targets and make him go through his progressions, because I still don't think he's really there when it comes to being a guy who can make the fourth read and throw it to his receiver. I think that their offensive line is so good that he's had plenty of time where he's been able to go to his check down or go to his first read and be fine this season. I'm really interested to see what Florida can do. If they can get more pressure than they got last week or 2 weeks ago at South Carolina, I think that they will be, it could be an interesting game. I already said I think it's going to be a close game in the fourth quarter that I could see being a double-digit contest, but I think Florida will have a chance to make it a game in the top of the fourth quarter. And what Georgia does on offense at the top of the fourth quarter, I think could dictate this contest. And I do think it's going to be a factor, but I also think there's a part of me that thinks that Georgia is going to be able to pass the ball efficiently, even without Brock Bowers being, out of the game. I hate to minimize the guy's loss because I do think that he's a generational talent, but I do think they're going to be able to step up without him.
Yeah. Well, David, what do you think? Loss of Brock Bowers makes a difference?
Oh, it'll make a difference. But as Graham said, how big of a difference will it make? Because, Oscar Delp, I guess he's the guy who is the first guy who will go in for him. And, was he a 5-star? I mean, just assume everybody at Georgia's a 5 or a 6-star probably at this point, So
we're going 6. It's like the David Whitley extra.
Georgia gets him.
Right. We give him the quickie. We give him the quickie extra star, right?
Yeah. But, what Graham touched on, the last 2 years, Stetson Bennett, you knew he would come up, especially he'd been there, done that. And Beck, although he has progressed, I think, okay, and done what they asked him to do, and you can see the improvement. There's still some prove it in him. He hasn't proven that he can do it under what might be the kind of pressure that he'll be on, just hometown, going back, rivalry game, and with Bowers, it's almost like it's psychological. He's the security blanket for that quarterback and for the whole offense. And now, from a psychological standpoint, it won't be there. So X and O wise, I think that they can figure it out. The sort of subjective, if all else fails, we always have Brock kind of mentality. That won't be there though. So, and it certainly, I'm glad it happened because it gives not only us something to talk about, but Kirby's always looking for some edge on how they're getting dissed in some way. And I know he's every time somebody has written or said in the last week that they're in trouble without Bowers, I'm sure that's going right up on the bulletin board. Saying, yeah, you can't win without Brock. You got no shot. Go out there and prove it. Blah blah blah. So it certainly adds a sort of, I think, a needed element to this game.
Yeah, Lauren, does anyone know who backs him up?
Yeah, Oscar Delp, right?
Oscar Delp, right?
Oscar
yeah.
Delp.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
So I'm sure he doesn't suck, right?
No, he's pretty highly rated guy.
He's a 5.5 star.
5.5. Yeah. By the quickie.
5-star.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I think like everybody said, it's a blow, but they have, guys like you said, Delp. They got Dominique Lovett, who fans may remember from Missouri. Lab McConkey has been reinserted into the lineup and got quite a few targets in the last game, and he's always been reliable. Back to the Stetson Bennett days. So I think that like Graham said, some plays are going to have to be made on defense because Georgia will not be short on weapons, and they'll be very creative how they get the ball. They do a nice job, particularly with Lovett and those guys getting the ball in space. And they're still good enough up front where they'll be able to run the football, to a decent clip to keep Florida honest. So, yeah, I mean it's going to be a tough one. I mean, I think it'll be closer, like Graham said, than some may think. I think it could be a game into the fourth quarter. It was a game into the fourth quarter last year, and so I mean, you could just it's one of those games, man. But I think what I would say is I think the Florida secondary is going to have to make some plays. And I think one of the things that's been most disappointing about the defense as a whole is you just haven't seen a lot of plays being made on the back end by Florida, particularly by someone who going into the season some people thought would be a first-round draft pick in Jason Marshall. So, I mean, it's time, I mean, these are the kind of games where if you're going to be big time, and you call yourself big time, you will walk around with, your Florida stuff on at the Oaks Mall and poke your chest out and all that kind of stuff. This is the kind of games where you make that happen.
Roll around the Oaks Mall with my
You know what I'm
chest
saying?
out.
You know what I'm saying? Like
That's
the
OG
man
shit
said,
right there.
You want to wear your stuff at the Oaks Mall. You mess around, you're gonna be working at the Oaks Mall. So
I'm gonna roll around the Oaks Mall with you.
So hey.
Hey, Graham, can you hang with us another minute, or do you have to go?
Sure, man. Yeah.
All right, guys, just give me a second. I want to tell everybody really fast about one of our sponsors here at Titan MRI. Titan MRI is now open and serving the greater Gainesville and North Central Florida area. They are focused on you, the patient, having a great customer service experience. They know people lead a busy life, and although they have regular business hours, they're available by appointment in evenings and weekends in order to meet your scheduling needs. Their MRI equipment is modern and has one of the largest bores openings of any of the new high-strength MRI units at 71 centimeters. I don't know. I don't know what that means, but I think that's awesome, right? It allows comfortable scanning of potential claustrophobic or larger patients, which I've had an MRI, the claustrophobia is real, who generally cannot tolerate a smaller closed units. Its noise level is at 75% quieter than any of its units in this class. Patients are previously having experienced an MRI scan have commented that they enjoy the music. I don't know what kind of music, maybe Enya, I'm not sure, but really did not need earphones because it was so quiet. Titan MRI, check them out right now. Tell them Buddy sent you. Tell them David Whitley sent you. TitanMRI.com. Okay, so Graham, defensively, I know it was a great win against South Carolina. And I'm not concerned either way what people think my opinion is or not, but I feel like that defensively against South Carolina, the Gators were not at their best. And I think that is a major point of concern going into this game. Do you feel that that's that resonates with you or resonates with the general consensus? And if so, what's Florida looking to do defensively against Georgia?
I think have a more effective pass rush, right? I think that South Carolina's offensive line was not a great one prior to that game. And if you go to how Florida looked, especially in the first two quarters, the Gators were unable to generate pressure against a unit that had given up, 20-plus sacks so far that season. I mean, Spencer Rattler was, as banged up as my old car. I mean, he was, bumped and bruised left and right the whole season. And you were expecting Florida to get 3, 4, 5 sacks in the first half, in my mind, and that was not a factor. If anything was concerning in that game, it was the inability to generate pressure on the quarterback, and that is something they're going to need against Carson Beck. And now they're facing a better offensive line. Now, granted, I think the big thing here is that South Carolina had a bye week, just like Georgia does, to fix some things on the offensive line. So they made some improvements. They made some changes to their offensive line. They had more time to study and rest up, and they were better than I thought that they had been all season long, right? But it still is, I think, a question mark for Florida. Guys like Cam Jackson, Caleb Banks, I expect them to have more pressure on the interior. Let guys like, Tyreek Sapp and Princely, Umen generate some pressure and force Carson Beck, a young quarterback, into some tough throws. That was not something I saw in the South Carolina game. That was the biggest thing that stood out to me in that game. The Gators are going to need to generate more pressure. Absolutely. Otherwise, I thought Florida tackled better. I thought their coverage was really, really good. I thought the defensive play calling was excellent against South Carolina. I know that South Carolina was able to score points, but I didn't think that that was really a knock or an indictment on Florida. I thought it was really just give South Carolina credit for benefiting from the bye week. Their issues are on defense. I mean, there's a reason Florida had 500 plus yards, their most points all season. That is a South Carolina defense that is in shambles in my mind. You're not going to face that in Georgia, so your defense needs to be better to not let this Georgia offense get 39, 40 points against you. And they've proven capable of doing that all year long, right? So I think that is the big question for me. If Florida can get pressure on the quarterback and they can stop guys in the backfield, force some 3rd and longs, this could be, I think, a lot more, like I said, a closer game than people think. But the key there is getting pressure on the quarterback. And I'm a little bit concerned after the South Carolina game how well Florida's going to do that, because I've been really high on Florida's defense all season long. But the fact is that they are coming off, I think, arguably one of their worst performances, and they're coming up, it was the bye week, right? They had played 7 games in a row. They were tired. They needed some rest. They could be miles better in this game than they were against South Carolina. That would not surprise me, but it is a factor in this game.
David, the secondary seemed to, I guess all year long, offensive line or defensive line secondary seems to be somewhat of the, potentially some of the weak spots or whatever. Do you think Florida can correct that in the bye week as far as preparing for this team? I heard Billy say on Monday, like, look, we're going to prepare for personnel that have been there all year long. You were there at the press conference. Like, it's sort of tough to prepare for a player or for a guy that's missing and how that's going to change the offensive scheme quite a bit going in to Saturday's game.
I think that they can correct some of their schemes that might go wrong, but I don't think the game plan will be the issue. It's just the execution will be the issue, and whether what they're supposed to do, they can do it. And I think that they will know what Georgia will probably do without Bowers, or have a pretty good idea. If not, they can adjust. But do they have the personnel, frankly, to do something about it? I'm skeptical on that end. I think that they're still a year or two away from having the personnel to do what they need to do. I mean, maybe they get LJ McCrae to sneak in there this weekend, a year early, but you can see a guy like that in a couple of years having a big.
Just don't talk to him, okay? He can play, but just don't talk to him.
Yeah, but they're not there yet. So I think that Austin Armstrong will call a pretty good game, and they know what they should do. It's just a question of can they do it against just a team which has just more talent on offense.
Yeah. Well, Lauren, X and O's Y. What's your take there?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everybody's synopsis as far as, it just, the scheme is good, but and going back to kind of South Carolina, I was sitting next to Kyle in the press box, and they, I think one of the touchdowns South Carolina scored was on a long trap on the left side there, and they never ran it again. And then the rest of the game, they just start banging the zone play. And I told Kyle, I said, every time they run the zone play, Florida's going to stuff it. And, but every time they ran a gap scheme, they had success. And I think that you'll see some of that from Georgia, because, Florida, since the Kentucky game, has shown no ability to fit the right gaps when the team is running a gap scheme run and things like that. And like you said, I think the calls are good, but they're just a step slow. They're just a step slow getting there, a step slow knocking the pass down, making the tackle, and it is concerning. Really, since the Kentucky game, that defense has almost seemed to have lost the confidence that I thought it was gaining after the Tennessee game. And then they went out and played pretty well against Charlotte, and then just everything is kind of falling off a cliff. And it looks like some of the gap discipline, the eye discipline has left a little bit. So, it's just going to be interesting. They have to make plays. And like I said, I'll go back to my original, you got to make plays on both sides of the ball. Everybody talks about, and nobody loves Ricky Pearsall more than the Meadows family. I mean, we're around the family quite a bit, and
Right.
I mean, the fact is, if you're gonna be big time, it's just some guys are really gonna have to play the best games of their careers, and it can be done. But this is the game where you can't say, well, they had a bad day. Well, if they have a bad day, they lost to a better team and they didn't play as well as they should have. But I mean, it's just going to be one of those things. But if I was Georgia, I would not run not one zone play, and on every run play, somebody would be pulling until they could stop it. I mean, I would take Delp and I'd have him coming on the counter. I'd do all kind of, herky jerky in the backfield, and then somebody be swinging around that fence on the counter until they prove they can stop it.
All right. Well, gentlemen, just got a few more minutes here left in the broadcast. Thanks for your time. Excellent information. Graham, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I like putting you on the spot, by the way. And by the way, we have to have a beer soon. We keep talking about all season long. It's never happens.
You put me in the spot if you're buying.
Okay, I'm buying. Well, Buddy's buying apparently. So
Even better.
But do you have a prediction? You keep talking about it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. It's going to be a close game. Is this how close do you think, or do you not think? Do you think think Georgia pulls away in the fourth? Do you think Florida pulls away in the fourth? What are you alluding to there?
Yeah, just don't kill me, but I'm currently going Georgia 31-27. I do think it's going to be a close game. I think that special teams is going to be a factor. I've seen some people say that in the comments. I think that's absolutely going to be a component of this game. Florida has to capitalize on drives. They're going to have to make some long field goals. They're going to have to go for it on fourth down, right? I think they're going to have to get stops. Their third down conversion percentage is going to have to be better in the second half. That's a huge point of the game for me. And as Lauren mentioned, they're going to have to be able to find a way to correct the issues from the South Carolina game defensively. It can't just all be generating pressure. They're going to have to absolutely, I think, be able to adapt in a lot better way than they were against a very mediocre South Carolina offense. This is absolutely a game that could get away from them. But it being a rivalry game, let me just say this. Florida has spent an inordinate amount of time focusing on this Georgia game, okay? It's not just – I know Billy Napier last week said that we're not going to talk about Georgia. We're focused on ourselves. But they've been focusing on Georgia all year long. And even at this point last year during the bye week, Florida practiced last year. I don't even know if I should say this, but Florida practiced last year for Georgia and Florida State during the bye week. They've only focused on Georgia, not just this past week, multiple weeks. This has been a huge focus for this team. They're trying not to talk, I think, too much about it. I would be shocked if this is not a winnable game for Florida. I don't mean that they're going to have a lead necessarily, but I do think it's going to be closer than people think. I think Florida will be within 1-2 scores a lot of the contest. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I'm happy to come on back and eat crow if that's the case next week, but eat crow and drink a few beers to wash it down. But I do think that, I think that Florida is a lot more capable team than they were last year. I think they're going to compete well with Georgia, and I do think it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. But right now I'm going 31-27. If Florida wins, I'll smile and eat crow with you next week.
All right. He's Graham Hall, 247 Sports. Graham, do you have anything that you need to promote or say or anything like that stuff?
Just be nice to everyone out there who covers the team. Everyone here, Lauren, David, Brendan, you name it, good people. Follow them. Maybe put up with my tweets if you want to. Going to be back next week. If I'm wrong and Florida wins, I'm going to smile and eat crow. Y'all take care.
I think we all will. Thank you, Graham. Have a good night.
Guys.
Graham Hall, 247 Sports, one of my favorites and one of the best. David, what do you think? You got to give me your prediction here. I kind of know you a little bit, and I feel like you're leaning a little bit more in the a wider
I don't see a 4-point game. I'd see more of a 10-point game for the Dogs.
They don't cover then, so that's your lock of the week, or
and I think that most Florida fans would say, all right, if we go up there and acquit ourselves well against the number one team and are competitive, they'll see it. You want to see progress. and that's what that game would indicate, is that you're getting there. And and I think, you try, if you're a Florida fan, you try not to think, gosh, imagine if we beat them, how, what a world shifting event that would be. It's almost if you're too good to think about, because it's so unexpected. So I don't think that that Florida fans should let that cherry up there, just alter their view too much of this whole thing, but just keep your heads on straight and just look at it objectively. I'm thinking probably it'll be more like a 27-17 game.
27-17 Georgia.
Oh, probably the team in red and black.
Black, as Franz Beers calls them. I think he calls them the Poodles. I believe it's the Poodles.
Poodles.
Yes. Grant. Excuse me, Graham. You're so svelte. I feel like the youth coming from you, Dave. That's why I almost called you Graham. Do you have anything exciting that's happening right now that you're writing about here in the Gainesville Sun?
Exciting? I wouldn't say.
Come on! It's always good stuff. You're my
just more. Breaking it down, actually, just on how Kirby will use the. He's turned Georgia fans into a bunch of. They're too paranoid about people, and he's played the disrespect card so much. He turns the slightest slight into something to keep his team motivated. And as I made the joke earlier about how he's saying that they can't get Brock, they can't win without Brock. They're going to say you can't win without Brock. Blah blah blah. And just from that standpoint, I just want to go on the record and saying, yes, you're right. They are going to go 0-5 the rest of the year without Brock Bowers. So I want Kirby to. This is my gift to Kirby. Just cut this snippet out and say they got just to take it out of context. You got no shot without Brock.
You got no shot. That's been your secret to success. To quote a 1980s movie.
It'd be like Vince Dooley without Herschel Walker.
I like it. He's David Whitley. He's on the Gainesville. Oh, he writes for the Gainesville Sun. You do like a Swamp Cast. I think it's called Swamp Cast. Is that right?
And I also work out.
And he works out
with
Gainesville
with
Health and Fitness.
And they're going to have the early shift tomorrow at the Cinnabon at Oaks Mall.
Bam! I love it. Do you got a name tag? Which, if you can score one for me, that's very good. That's right. All right. David, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you every Tuesday night here on the Buddy Martin Show. Have a good night. Enjoy your milk and cookies, or maybe it's the ice cream. I'm not sure what it's going to be. Butter pecan. That's right. David, thank you. Good night, sir. Good night. All right, Lauren, I saved the best for last, obviously, because I wanted to do your trivia question. Do you want to set it up at all, or just want me to roll it in?
Yeah, roll it. It's a good one.
Roll it, dog. It is a good one. All right, here we go. You know what I like to do? I like to get the chat and pop it over here on the other side. All right, here we go. I am going to play the trivia question. It's brought to you by Spurrier's, right? Gridiron Grill.
Gridiron Grill, yes.
Okay, great. Here we go. Here's your trivia question. I put your answers in the chat room, and then Mr. Meadows will tell you how the rest of it works. Here we go.
Lauren Meadows with Gator Vibe Media coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill with Tuesday Night Trivia. Got a little Florida, Georgia, world's largest outdoor cocktail party filled for you this week.
Like it.
How many total interceptions did quarterback Shane Matthews throw against Georgia in his career? Once again, how many total interceptions did quarterback Shane Matthews throw against Georgia in his Florida career? Be the first to answer. You'll be entered into our monthly drawing for swag and other prizes from Spurs Gridiron Grill and Gator Vibe Media. With Tuesday Night Trivia, this is Lauren Meadows.
Solid question, Mr. Meadows. Very well done. Sir. We'll let everybody sort of get the answers in, and you'll reveal it here just shortly. We've known each other for a while, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You're my
going on. I think longer than that. 5 years. Now.
5 years. Yeah. 5 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of interesting we traveled together, right?
Absolutely.
Out on the road,
My
and
God.
this particular season has been emotional, right? As far as that's concerned, for both of us, we've talked about it. So obviously, I wanted to have you on at the end here to do the trivia question, but I value your opinion a great deal. I don't just do this broadcast. I do other things for GatorBaitMedia.com. By the way, it's a great place to get information and check out GatorBaitMedia.com. Lauren writes for us. Take me through what this, especially this season, what this particular game, what are the real chances? Because I feel like our conversations, although be it emotional or whatever, we generally settle somewhere in the middle and get pretty close a lot of the time. And I feel like you're a little bit more right than I am in some of this process, because I weighed against them against Tennessee, but I picked them to win against South Carolina. So I'm clearly not picking them to win against Georgia, but that doesn't mean I'm not a Gator fan, and that doesn't matter at all. But what's your real take here? What's your heart, bro? What's in here? What's going on Saturday?
I think Florida will play well. I don't think they'll play well enough to win. I don't know if they're capable of playing well enough to win. If I had to look at it from player to player, person to person, there's only, I would say, running back. I would give it quarterback, and that may be it where I feel like Florida has the advantage. And I think that it's just one of those situations where nobody. I mean, I'm the guy that used to come down here from Ohio for Florida games, but long before Gator Bait and things like that, and nobody wants to. I try to act like Atlanta isn't in Georgia because I love Atlanta so much, but I hate the state of Georgia. I hate everything about them. When they moved the game to Athens, I will never step foot in Athens ever in life. But you got to look at it from an X and O's and Jimmy's and Joe's, and Florida they unfortunately just don't have it now. It's coming, but they don't have it right now. And it would take Georgia playing bad for Florida to win. And I'm talking, last year they picked Stetson Bennett off twice. They could have had 5 turnovers. If they would have got 5, they probably could have pulled the upset. It's going to take 2 to 3, and I just don't know if that's going to be there. And the team has just not played consistent enough football in all 3 phases of the game to beat a team that is of the quality of the Georgia Bulldogs, which I still believe is one of the top 5 programs in the country. Are they the best team in the country this year? Time will tell, but they are what I think is the class of the SEC. And, it's unfortunate. I mean, I think Florida fans are getting tired of it. 2020 seems like a long time ago. It was a COVID year. A lot of people weren't able to be there to enjoy that victory. But, it just is what it is. And, like I said, it's just right now they are a program in transition. I wouldn't call it a rebuild, but because Florida should never be in a rebuild. But let's say a transition, and that transition is going pretty well. And I think before the season, when we ran down our games that we thought Florida would lose, the only one I've missed so far, I thought we would go into Lexington and beat Kentucky. But so far, everything's kind of been status quo. And I think this is a 7-5, 8-4 football team. I said that one of the reasons that I thought they could win 8 is because I thought Graham Mertz would come in and play extremely well, and he has. But at the end of the day, as a unit, 85 scholarship, Georgia is the superior team. And it's the same thing you and I talked about that night, late at night at 1 a.m, Pacific time or Mountain time when we were sitting there.
Mountain time.
There was just a better team at that point in time. Now, would I maybe take Florida now against Utah, yeah, but that's a totally different thing. They have improved. But right now, I just don't think they have enough. And like I said, I think it's a close game. But I would say that, I would say Georgia wins the game 35-20.
20. Now, do you feel like this is a true mutual site, or do you feel like this leans more Florida or more Georgia? Because I feel like it always leans more Florida.
I would say it leans Florida. I mean, the game's in Florida. I mean, it's definitely it leans Florida. Like Graham said, you probably have a just a mass of alumni in both Jacksonville and then up the coast, Daytona, and all those areas. Very easy to get to. No, I definitely would say that it's definitely favors Florida, but I don't necessarily know if it's a advantage for Florida. Right. But it is definitely a slanted Florida. The times I've been there, it's definitely slanted Florida for sure.
But I remember being on the sideline when Brandon Spikes, shooting for Gator Country when we were at Gator Country. But I remember being on the sideline when he lights up Noshawn, right? I got to find the clip I have. I was at every game that year, and then the other day up at the Gainesville, I always want to call it the quarterback club, but it's the Gator Club up there. Is it the Gator Club? I get them all confused, but I remember Brandon Spikes talking. He kind of relived it, and I shared it on. I think we have 9-10 Facebook pages.
Sure.
And I admin. I don't know. I counted the other day. It's like 125,000 people in all of our different Facebook groups and pages and all the stuff that we've created in the last decade. But just listening to Brandon Spikes talk about it even now, and also talking about how he prepared for Tennessee, walking around telling everyone, you got to beat Tennessee, you got to beat Tennessee, you got to beat Tennessee. And then he walked through what he said to Noshawn. He said, I think I called him everything under, in the book, or no, his exact quote was, I think I shared it on the Buddy Martin Show Facebook page the other day. But do you feel like there is somebody on Florida's defense that represents that sort of intensity, that sort of like, I am coming for you? Somebody said, was it Shane Matthews said on his show today? He said, Spurrier didn't prepare any differently for any different game, but Urban, as my dad, Buddy Martin said, Urban's more of that psych major, right? Where he really digs into that. And you could see that obviously in any football game, home or away, you want to start early, that sort of a thing against the, potentially the best player that they've played all year against Noshawn, coming in and setting that tempo, right? Is there a person, and defense wins championships, defense wins the SEC, right? Every coach will tell you that.
Sure.
So this game is not so much, in my opinion, about the offensive scheme. It's about defense, and that has been my concern all along, is especially against South Carolina, right? Down 10, at the fourth quarter. I just feel like that is, I don't feel like there is somebody defensively that has emerged at this point. Now, could somebody emerge and be dominant? Sure. But do you think there's somebody defensively that has sort of got that Brandon Spikes mentality on this Florida team?
No. And they just don't. I mean, they, like, for instance, on the back end in that secondary, it should be a no-fly zone. It should be no-fly zone. You should feel that way. You should think that way. It's a no-fly zone. They don't think that way. I think the linebackers are young, but there's no Brandon Spikes. And then up front, I mean, Cam Jackson and Caleb Banks and Chris McClellan and some of those younger guys, I mean, they play their tails off. And guys like Searcy and some of the other young guys, and even Tyreek Sapp, who I think he has that alpha mentality. he just, I mean, genetics sometimes catch up with you. You can only do so much. And, I think, like I said, those guys are coming. They're evolving. I think Shamar James, we would look back and think Shamar James is one of the better linebackers to ever play in a long lineage of great linebackers, going back to Scott Brantley, who we both know and love, and things like that.
Great guy.
It's coming. This is not the year. And no, I don't think. And that's probably, to your point, Brendan, that's probably what keeps this defense from taking the next step, is because they lack that true alpha dog that really galvanizes a defense, and I think that's what they miss, and it could be like a Jason Marshall who says, y'all go ahead and play over there. I got this whole half of the field shut down. That's it. You just don't have that. And I think that's where they're about a year and a half away, I think, for really becoming a good football team.
Yeah. Well,
based on what I see,
Yeah. Yeah. And hey, it's going to be a fun game to watch, regardless. If you love college football, you got to love this matchup, right? I think
absolutely.
I was 6 years old when I, sat next to my dad in New York when he was the editor of the Daily News, or the sports editor of the Daily News, and I said, "Go Gators, beat Georgia." It's one of my first
Right.
memories of it, and I've seen this game. I got to count it up countless of times, and it's exciting to be, and it's exciting to be a Gator fan, because you've had 2 weeks to build up to it, and I get that. Like, I get it. Like, the Gator fan in me is excited and wants this win, right? I could convince myself 1,000 different ways on how Florida can win this game. I really, really could. But, if I've got to come on here and I don't have, dude, listen, if you knew what I really did on a day-to-day basis, it's based on SEO, graphics, numbers, design, website design, everything else. Like, I admittedly don't delve in as deep as I'd like to or want to on a day-to-day of Florida football. I would love to have that sort of time, but the Gator fan in me really wants Florida to show up and be this just something that I just don't think it's going to be going into Saturday. I just don't think personnel-wise you can take Brock in and out of the equation. Just don't feel like it's there. I haven't been a Billy Napier, sort of scheme guy all year long, especially offensively. I've been critical of the red zone offense. I've been critical of how they play on the road. I'm still critical of how they played, against a really mediocre South Carolina defense. I'm hopeful that there's something new, but I just don't see this being enough to be a team that is undefeated now and potentially could run the table for a second year and do something that a lot of programs have done in college football history. Kirby Smart is, a fantastic coach. They are stacked every year now for recruiting. This is the beauty of going back to back. This is the beauty of having this, because recruiting, you really are next man up. This is a la Alabama, this is dynasty stuff. And I just don't, Florida's in that rebuild process. Look, I want them to play fantastic. I just think, much like our guest tonight said, they're just a year and a half out from making this sort of a difference and winning this kind of football game. But like you said, Lauren, Florida has got to capitalize on the potential if Georgia makes mistakes. And that is going to be the key. Georgia's got to play the worst game they've played in 2 years or more to really, and Florida's got to play their best game under Billy Napier that they've played to this point for them to have a shot. And, that's just the way I see it. Now, like Graham Hall said, if there's something different, I'm happy to come on here and eat crow and whatever, and
Absolutely.
and share the boys in orange and blue.
Happily eat crow.
I mean, happily.
Right.
But, and I know you are too, because this is the perspective that we share together. We are Gator fans, absolutely 100%. And we don't ever need anybody to change that for us, right? You know, like I don't need anyone to validate that in my, in my life.
Right.
I've got enough Gator shit in my room and in my closet that would scare people. And so, you know, I'm excited for the opportunity. Do I think they win? No. Do I think Georgia covers? Probably. I'm not a score predictions guy, but I think it's going to be a 14 plus differential. I'm not a gambling person, but I would put my money on Georgia and lay the point. So we went a little long tonight. I just, go ahead.
Let me give the answer for it was.
Yeah, I was going to say
Andy Heyman got the answer. We'll draw a winner next month for the prize. Andy Heyman was the winner. He guessed 0, and that is correct. So it's kind of a trick question because I said how many interceptions. But Shane Matthews
jumped on that early too, didn't he?
Yeah, jumped on that quick. And Shane Matthews, our good friend, never threw an interception against Georgia in his Florida career. 0.
Well, 0.
And threw for 300 yards 3 times. So
is it
300?
300. Looking back on what Shane did, in his career in Florida, it's really unbelievable. And it's fun to talk to him in the press box and whatnot. What's funny is because he always shares a little bit more, right? Than he kind of shares or whatever of what what Florida should be doing or not. He's an interesting guy. He's fantastic at what he does. I even said earlier this year, I was like, I'd just bring him in as offensive coordinator. Why not? His booth is right next door, right? So, look, Lauren Meadows, thank you so much. You can catch Lauren on this broadcast every week, but you also can read Lauren's article because he does a fantastic pregame article and a postgame article on gatorbaitmedia.com. It's just been really, really, really fun, bro, to get to know you this year. I know we were going to travel earlier this year to South Carolina, but I got a little bit under the weather, as a lot of people have. By the way, if you're not feeling well, I hope you feel better. Anyway, I just want you to know I really appreciate everything that you do for Gatorbait and our family, especially this difficult time when my mom passed away in June. You've been not only really fun to work with, but you've been a fantastic friend. You've been a rock in my family, and I just really want you to know. And Marsha, y'all are just real class people. And I never get that opportunity to say that. And I just want you to know how much we appreciate you, how much I appreciate you this year. And folks will just never know how far that goes when you go through a loss like that. And we have been juggling quite a bit, Dad and I, and you and the rest of the staff have picked up a lot of that slack. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate that, how I'll never forget you for that. And, and thank you so much for that. And it's been a real fun time getting to know you. And I hope I'm looking forward to more of that in the future. So thanks, man.
Absolutely.
All right. Lauren
Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. That's right, man. Okay. Lauren Meadows. Thanks, buddy. Tell Marsha hello, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right, buddy.
All right. Lauren Meadows. Again, folks, if you like what you see here, obviously, it's really about Buddy and the gang. And we're excited that we've got our real business and real jobs are gatorbaitmedia.com. I've extended let's find it here. I've extended the discount. So you can go to gatorbaitmedia.com and you could subscribe. You put in, it's another one. Here it is. 20% off right now. We're going to keep it in as good luck. 20% off all access annual. Use code WINNING. You put it in there on the discount. You're going to get 1 year of GatorBaitMedia.com at $79.20. It is a steal. I promise you, we're not going to run that forever. And as we have plans for the future, probably going to go up a little bit in price. And hopefully you all will have the opportunity to lock it in for the next 12 months. Also, you can subscribe to the show. We have 53% of you watch the show and don't subscribe to it. I will take a moment, which I rarely do, and say thank you to the folks in the chat room. The more you comment and the more that you share your opinion, you help us and make us money. And we really appreciate that. Really appreciate all that stuff, because the more engagement that we have, the more that that chat room is live, the more subscribers, it just drives that analytics deal up. And that's how you get paid on YouTube. And we're excited that we've reached over 1,000 members now, and we're pushing to closer to 2,000. So if you're watching on YouTube, I know we're on Facebook Live, just click that subscribe button. Just more of it means a whole lot to us, and it helps us as we, want to bring you Gator Bait Media more in the future. I am the president of the company, and that's, something that I take very seriously, is wanting to, take Gator Bait, which has been around for 40 plus years, into the future, and keep that us as a news source for as long as we can. So check us out over there at GatorBaitMedia.com. We're a family-run, owned, and operated business. We really do everything ourselves, and we strive to be one of the best, group of journalists around. And we try to bring everybody the truth and what it is going to be. Thanks to our guest tonight, Lauren Meadows, obviously. Thanks to David Whitley, Kyle Curtis, obviously Graham Hall. Those guys are good friends of mine. I've known them for years, and it's a pleasure to have them on. Tomorrow night, Buddy Martin's going to reveal his big interview with Steven Spurrier, SOS, the old ball coach. Buddy obviously is, got years and years experience with coach, and he had a very candid interview about what it's like to play as a player and as a coach against the Georgia Bulldogs, and what that means. That is all tomorrow night. That starts here at 9 p.m. Eastern. That is all I've got for you all tonight, and I appreciate you all hanging with me and being a part of this broadcast. And I think that's it. I'll shut up now, but we will talk more down the road. We'll see what happens here on Saturday. Excited to see what the potential could be. And actually, with all this great recruiting stuff going on, I'm excited for next year, regardless of the schedule. I think the next couple of years is going to be a return to, hopefully, dominance and what we're used to as Florida Gator fans. I'm Brendan Martin, sitting in for Buddy Martin. As always, I say at the end of every one of our shows, go Gators.